Hello, everybody at College Town Primary School. My name is Alistair Humphreys. I'm an adventurer and I'm the author of Great Adventurers, which you've been reading this term, and Against the Odds. The Incredible Struggles of 20 Great Adventurers, which is a kind of part 2 of this book. Thank you. Happy New Year, by the way. And thank you for sending me some fantastic questions, which I will answer now. Thank you. Ruby and Harrison C says, how did you get people to help you when I was cycling around the world? I don't think I got people to help me. I think generally people are quite helpful. People want to help other people, mostly, I think. It definitely helps, though, if you arrive in a town or a village on a bike loaded up with big bags, and it's clear then that you've been on a long journey. And then people are curious, like, hey, why is there a guy with massive bags on his bike, his tent and stuff, he's on an adventure, let's go talk to him. And he seems interesting, so let's have a chat. So immediately I seemed a bit more interesting and different than just normal people on the street. And I guess on that note, a lot of places that I went in the world, I looked really different to all the people around me. So say in Africa or South America or all the way across Asia. So for most of my time around the world, the people who I was cycling amongst didn't look like I did. And that was really helpful for me on my journey, because when I was in different parts of the world, people would look at me and think, oh wow, he's a foreigner, he doesn't live around here, let's have a chat to him and let's welcome him to our country and let's be kind to him and let's help him. So that was really nice. And perhaps is also a good thing for us to think about when we think about how we treat people in our own country, maybe. But yeah, people were really kind to me when I cycled around the world. Matthew, Emily and Frankie said that why did I say that I was lucky enough to row the Atlantic? Yeah, that is a good question, because most of the time when I was rowing the Atlantic, I didn't feel lucky at all, and I felt sick, scared, bored, and therefore very unlucky. But to go and do a big adventure like rowing across the Atlantic is a lucky thing. There are 7 billion people in the world. Billions of those people are just struggling to get by on life. There's a tiny, tiny number of us in the planet who are lucky to be able to think, I'm going to go and do an adventure. So I do felt lucky like that. But then I also felt lucky with the boat thing, because I love adventures, but I don't like organising the complicated money side of adventures. That always feels a bit boring. So I would never have got round to rowing an ocean because it's quite complicated and it's expensive. And so the reason I felt lucky was because one day I got an email from a Slovenian guy called Marin saying, hi, Al, we've put together this whole trip. Everything's ready. It's all sorted out, the money. It's all organised. But one of our team members had to drop out. So do you want to join us? So all I had to do was turn up and row a boat. So I was lucky that someone did all the organising. Jack says, what was my scariest experience? With adventures, you can keep a lot of things in your own control. What do I mean by that? So when you're rowing across the ocean, when the waves are big and there's a danger that a wave might hit you and you might fly off the boat and die, the thing that's in your control is to put on your safety harness and to tie the rope that fixes you onto the safety line in the boat. And then if a wave hits you, the rope grabs you and you're safe. So a lot of that is in your control. The things that scare me are things that are out of your control. So for example, when you're cycling around the world, I could take care of things like making sure I was warm enough in my tent so I didn't get hypothermia and things like that. But I couldn't always control some crazy person driving a car without paying attention that might hit me. So I did find that quite scary, sometimes riding on roads that were busy with traffic zooming. I felt that scary because that was out of my control. But usually on adventures, you can keep the risks and the dangers inside your own control. And I much prefer those sorts of things, because the other ones are just rolling the dice and taking a chance, which I don't really like doing. Max and Drew want to know how I entertain myself when I'm alone in the wilderness. I sing a lot of songs, very badly. I daydream about food. I remember in Africa just spending so long daydreaming about pizzas, like what I'd put on top of them. You also there's so thinking about songs, thinking about my friends. I'd make plans for the future. Like, oh, when I get home, I'm gonna eat really healthy and I'm gonna be a good person. So you make a lot of plans. But there's also stuff to do, like you're navigating, so you're trying to always not get lost. You're thinking about, right, I've got this much food left in my supplies. This will last me for this many days. Will I get to a shop before then, or do I need to start eating less food? Where will I find some water? Where am I going to sleep safely tonight? What plans do I need to make for next week or next month on the adventure to keep it going? So there's lots of things to think about. Favourite country I've visited, say Merlin class. What's my favourite country? Look, I'm yawning. I'm yawning because I get asked this question all the time. No, I'm yawning because I'm tired. But I do get asked this question all the time, and there's so many good countries and so many cool places that I tend to give a different answer every time. My answer this morning, because it's freezing cold, it still feels dark. It's all wet and muddy and horrible. So my answer right now is my favourite country is Colombia, which is warm and sunny and beautiful, and the music's great, and they sell the most delicious smoothies and fruit juices. Look up the fruits and smoothies in Cartagena in Colombia. All sorts of weird fruits I'd never even seen before in a supermarket at home. Delicious, and the sun shining and the ocean. That's where I'd like to be right now. Ellis and Shane ask if there ever been an adventure you've been unable to complete. No, I've been lucky to manage to complete all the big adventures I've done. So, yeah, I guess I'm lucky there. Oscar, was it scary travelling around the world on your own? Yes, sometimes it was scary. So there was sometimes like moments of fear. I mentioned earlier, say that driving on a scary road, that's scary, or something like that happening. But then there's this sort of a different kind of scary, which is that nervousness you feel in your belly, like if you're going to go to a new school or something, it's nervousness. And I would sometimes have that about, I'm going to this new country I don't know anything about, so I'd be nervous about that. Or I'm reaching this big city, I'm a bit nervous how I'll get through it and find where to go. So there's that sort of thing. But generally it wasn't scary. It more just felt that there was a lot for me to think about and a lot for me to deal with when I was on my own. I guess that every day I had to think about sorting out my food and where I was going to sleep and sorting out my money and covering some miles and finding somewhere to sleep and how I'd get through this country. So I had so many things to deal with and nobody to help me. And I found that it wasn't really scary, but it was just hard. It's nice at home to be able to share all the things in life with different people. Dylan O and Alex ask, I've heard that travelling around the world can be dangerous due to certain countries' laws. Have you ever found yourself face to face with authorities in another country? And what happened? So for me, travelling around other countries wasn't dangerous because of the laws, but sometimes was difficult. And the difficulty I really faced was trying to get permission to go into countries. So usually the way you go to countries is you get your passport and then you ask the country for permission to come into the country, and most countries will let you go there as a tourist, a visitor for a few weeks or a couple of months. So that was usually fine. There were, however, a few countries that didn't let me in, and the reason they didn't let me in is usually because Britain, my country, doesn't let people from their country into our country, so they get revenge by saying, no, you can't come into our country either, which is all quite annoying. So there are a few countries, for example, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Angola and Iran, where I wasn't allowed in, so then I had to choose a different route to go around those countries. That was probably the biggest difficulty I had travelling. Dylan H and Jesse, do you have a favourite photograph taken on your many travels? What a fantastic question. I don't often get asked about photography. That's a really nice question. gosh, I've got thousands of photos. This could be a long answer, but I'll give you a quick answer, which is the first picture that came into my head when you asked that was when I reached the end of Africa. I reached the ocean. Yawn. Sorry. When I reached the ocean at the end of Africa, it was an incredible moment for me because I'd made it all the way from my home to the end of Africa, my first big journey, my first continent, and I reached the ocean there and I sat on the sand there and the sun was setting and it was warm and it was lovely. I just sat there. I was going to sleep on the beach that night and I set up my camera to take a picture of that moment. So I think that was a special sort of moment for me. Also, I had crazy hair. I had a year and a half of hair. The sun was shining. Yeah, good adventures. Jackson and Zachary ask that about going on adventures costs money. What did I do to earn money while travelling around the world? So yeah, adventures are expensive. Of course they are. So when I cycled around the world, I saved up money before. So I worked beforehand. I worked evening and holiday jobs. The main one I did was working in a pub, saving up money so that when I went on the trip, I would just live really cheap, spend little amount of money, and I did that because I didn't want to have to stop and get a job, partly because it's difficult with the visas and getting permission to do that, but also because cycling around the world was already going to take 4 years, and stopping to work along the way would hiccup now. Gosh, I'm falling apart. Cycling around the world would take a long time anyway, so stopping to get a job would slow that down even more. So rather than earning money whilst I travel around the world, my choice was to earn money before and then just live really cheap while I was actually away on the adventure. Right, thank you very much everyone. Thank you for those fantastic adventures and have a good day.